We're live!
Woohoo! Yes.
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Back
Cheers.
again.
Back again.
If he's not even drinking beer. What do you have? Multiple bottles of wine?
Yeah, just
You've been
polishing
drinking
these
wine,
off.
right?
What's that?
You've been drinking wine.
Yeah, the last couple
On the
times. I
show.
don't typically buy alcohol all the time.
Okay. Anyway, we over the last month we did a little villains bracket. Our first
we?
little crowd rank of
Yeah, I like
specifically
this.
villains, and we want to continue this with different things out of the Bondverse. But our final results, thanks to y'all who voted, is Goldfinger, of course.
Here, let's
Beat
just zoom in
Lashif in
there.
the finals. All my favorites died off pretty early.
I would
then-
Like
I would
Kananga?
agree.
Kananga? What is this?
Goldfinger is
spelling right?
awesome, though. So, Kananga?
Kananga?
Dr. Kananga?
McCurdy did all this, so if anything's misspelled, you know
checked
why.
all the spelling. I don't know. Nans, you get your eyes checked, please.
Voice to speech? Kananga?
So,
Double check.
Kananga.
Every time he would send me a post, I would have to double. He would. It's
Kananga.
McCurdy. It's not worth saying.
Okay, you guys, this isn't. I don't appreciate this. I don't appreciate all this.
Let's save
It's been a lot
Goldfinger
of
for the
work.
Goldfinger one, but let's
talk-
just, walk
yeah.
us through it.
So let me
McCurds.
walk you guys through it. So just so people are aware, when I did the bracket, it was interesting because this is 32 villains, and we know there's not 32 films, right? So luckily, some of the movies have two villains, like not License to Kill. View to
Octopussy.
Kill. Octopussy has two villains. Your Living Daylights has two villains. As far as like two main villains, you can make the assumption that
Yeah,
From Russia
the
with
world
Love.
is not enough.
World Is Not Enough is on there. They have two villains, like two main villains. And then I still needed brooms, so I wanted to add a couple of major henchmen, the ones that like are the most famous. So we had Oddjob, Jaws, and
My
Red
favorite was
Grant,
the addition of
Blofeld's
Kevin
on there
McClory,
multiple
but
times?
Kevin McClory was knocked out in the first round.
because our
I thought he was
fans
a very
apparently,
clever. Yeah,
yes.
everybody.
Everyone
I
was
guess they hate
like,
him that much.
"Why? Why would you put Kevin McClory?" So yeah, Kevin McClory's on this. Kevin McClory, as you know, is Ian Fleming's
He's
and
the
Eon
ultimate
Productions'
His
worst villain.
Blofeld.
So
The guy who invented Blofeld is Blofeld.
and then
That
because
villain
we
that
had
won't die.
Speaking of Blofeld, since we had 4 Blofelds, I thought it was appropriate. Originally, Charlie wanted to do it to knock them all out the same bout. I was thinking, oh no, they're all like the head of each. They're in each division, so there's 1 Blofeld for each division, and that's how I did it. I would have done
Yeah.
it differently, but I was like, oh, I'll just put these on each corner.
Yeah, but let's get down to it. Let's talk.
Let's get down to it. All right,
specifics.
so let's start with Division 1. I don't have a special funny name for any of these divisions. I just they're just
Sure. Yeah.
they're just there. Let me see if I can hold on. I'm trying to do this on my laptop.
So that right
here.
off the bat, Blofeld, any Blofeld beat Jaws, which is shocking.
it's like on the show at least probably our worst Blofeld.
Yeah.
Like I know we talked about like the silent Blofeld, but like we were like, no, Donald Pleasance sucks. As
Yeah, I
might
wonder
be
what
the
took
most
Jaws down,
iconic.
like the silliness and when he's like tearing apart the truck or the van or whatever.
you know,
and
our fans could have taken it different routes, and they could have been saying, "Hey,
curious,
like."
yeah.
Like could have been saying, no, it's because Jaws isn't a henchman, or sorry, Jaws is a henchman and Blofeld's
true.
like this diabolical person. So maybe that's the route they went. But
Sure.
as we
Yeah.
saw,
And again, it's like he's for many reasons we were saying why Donald Pleasance is just kind of odd, but in and of himself, I can understand why people like. I mean, again, he is Dr. Evil. He's a fun cartoon. He paled in comparison to the Out of Sight Blofeld, and then the follow up with Secret Service, like Telly Savalas, like he's just awesome.
Yeah.
So
K1 said Jaws is a henchman, Blofeld is the big bad.
and that's
So,
what I'm thinking.
there's
I think
some
that's
insight there.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So then next I put the doctors together. So I put Dr. No and Dr. Kananga.
like
And just a refresher, Dr. Kananga was in Live and Let Die. If you forgot. And I was surprised
It's a
with
good
this one
choice.
too.
It's
I
a
thought
good choice. So
it was a Dr. Kananga. I think the actor does a much better job than our Dr. No. I think Dr. No is more of a cartoon, and I think the guy who plays Kananga just does a better job.
I don't know if he's a cartoon as much as he's
just playing forwards like I'm the villain,
he's very straightforward. He is
Yeah,
very
he's-
much the
I'm
Dr.
taking
No of the
down-
book.
Yeah,
Like
taking
he's
down
a
rockets.
he's a good adaptation. The thing with Kananga was that he Kanagana with
That's what I was
Kanagana,
saying.
he Christ McCurdy.
He did
he's-
voice
I don't really care at this
text.
point.
he could have been so that's like the mantra of most of these villains is what could have been. How amazing could the whole Kananga versus Mr. Big thing, like if they would have really just if they would have gotten rid of, as I said in that episode, get rid of one chase scene and dedicate that time to the Kananga Mr. Big situation, that would have been great. But instead it's completely underwhelming. But regardless, in our book, he's more of an active bad guy than Dr. No. And I don't think you can really hold that against Dr. No, because he's like a pseudo Blofeld in that film. He's also, I think he's good, but he's, it's just a completely different flavor. I can just see how overall you'd go with Kananga, other than farting himself.
Yeah,
to
just
death.
ignore the farting himself to death. And
Yeah.
And I think the performance wise, he's better overall.
Totally.
Next, we had
going back for a second. K1 did also throw in Jaws turns good, which
that's
is true and
it's true
and fun
And by turns good, he means becomes awful.
he wants to run
turns
away with
bad.
the blonde with the pigtails or whatever.
Yeah, and again, this
McClellan
stuff
also
is
threw
fun,
in
but like you
questions
said,
some
good guy Dracula.
rankings
And you're
further
like,
on, but we'll get there.
Moving on, so we have the Backstabbers. Essentially, we have Kristatos, who we believe is a good guy in the beginning, as well as General Koskov,
Costco,
Gorgi, or Grit. What is he? What's his first name? Charlie.
Georgi. You got to say it like Dalton.
Georgi
Koskov.
And we believe in the beginning of the story on both of those films that he's a good guy, and it turns out he's actually a bad guy the whole time. I think it makes sense that Kristatos he's just a better villain. I don't know. I think Koskov is kind of silly and not.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he's just kind of there.
His whole thing doesn't make sense. And I just read The Living Daylights, and I really wish they could just do a straight adaptation of that, where they took that whole it's a short, and they put it that was obviously just not the prologue, but like the start of the film is the whole defection thing. But that takes place over 3 days in the short story. And that would have been interesting, hanging out with Bond as he's slowly kind of going crazy, waiting for an exciting 5 seconds. Like he waits 3 days to do a job that takes 5 seconds, which is, at any time a guy is going to run over no man's land, and you got to shoot the sniper that's trying to kill him. And that takes 3 days. And I'm saying that could have been half The Living Daylights, and I would have been very happy with it. But instead we have to do stupid popcorn shit as usual. So
Jennifer Koskov. Why did I call him? I didn't call him Jennifer.
What?
I didn't call him
Did
Jennifer. No.
He just can't say Georgi.
Georgi.
I'm sure
I
he
was
said
hearing
something.
so sorry.
a wholesale massive retail company.
All right, moving on. We have we just finished doing Tomorrow Never Dies. It just came out, so if you haven't watched that episode, go check that out.
Go
Well,
watch
it's been removed, but maybe it'll be back tomorrow.
Has it?
Okay, it might be back, but
Maybe
we
someday.
have Elliot Carver, aka didn't we figure this out? Elliot Carver is the Apple founder.
He's Steve Jobs.
He's Steve Jobs.
He looks like Steve Jobs.
Oh,
He also, I kind of made a joke in the edit about how he kind of also looks like Mikey G. Whiz.
Mikey G. Whiz, baby.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with Mikey G. Whiz.
Michael G. Wilson, because I think that's in the
He's
Twine
my boy.
episode. We start joking about my boy Mikey G. Whiz.
Mikey G. Whiz.
T-shirts available soon.
Yes.
Anyway.
and then we
And he went up
obviously have
against who?
He went up
Carver and
against
Lashif.
Lashif, which is
Ah.
kind of it's just kind of like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna go to Lashif.
Yeah.
Um,
God bless you, McCurdy, the people's champion.
Elliot
God.
Carver.
Carver.
Yeah.
Are
Whatever,
you
man.
dyslexic?
Wouldn't be surprised. Wait, is
You know
it
I
really?
am.
Craver.
Are you really?
You know what? I might be. I might be.
Hey, he had
Undiagnosed
cancer.
Dyslexia.
I did have
That's his
cancer.
usual
I
go-to.
listen. I had cancer. I'd
Just
appreciate
blame
if
it
you
on the
didn't.
cancer.
Yeah.
I hate both of you. Anyway, moving on. Next division, we've got Blofeld, but this time it's Telly Savalas, the better
Mhm.
Blofeld, versus Rosa Klebb,
Yeah.
Colonel Rosa Klebb from Russia with Love. I found that one to be a toss-up. I wasn't sure where that one was going to go,
Yeah,
but
it
I
could've gone either
personally
way.
like Telly Savalas more.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys.
I think I just like him as an actor, and Rosa Klebb was she was a fine Klebb.
I just can't get the
but-
picture of her stuck behind a chair, kicking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that seems pretty straightforward.
Hard
This
for her
is
to
our.
behave.
I personally think this is an upset, but it could also
totally.
be.
I
It
agree.
could also be because I put it up against a popular one as well. So I should have maybe changed that. But we have Kevin McClory, villain of the Bond franchise as a whole, versus Francisco Scaramanga.
Say his real name. Say it, McCurdy. Say it.
Christopher Lee.
Dracula.
The man with the golden gun. Say it.
The man with the golden gun.
There you go.
There you go.
Say
Yeah.
it
So
again.
I wish it was Kevin McClory, but you know what? Hindsight, I would have been like, put him with
You
somebody
should have
else.
put him up. I think I even said, I was like, are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, they just post it. Okay.
Just post it. I don't give a fuck.
He's gonna die, but maybe people even read Kevin McClory and they said, "What? Who is that?" I like Scaramanga. You know,
Yeah, and I think Kevin McClory would.
K1 says Saruman.
Saruman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, like, how
Saruman.
can you not go with Saruman? That's
I
what
was gonna go
McCurdy.
with Count
That's what he always
Dooku.
accuses us of. He's like, "I think you just like Christopher Lee." It's like, well, yeah, no shit.
Oh yeah.
I think you do.
You know,
I
but
think you do.
Scaramanga's awesome.
Next we have two that are like kind of
His real name is Francisco Saramanga. Yeah, there you go. I just fit Dooku in there somewhere.
Yeah, please do.
Dooku Saramanga.
Saruman.
Or
Dooku.
Saramanga Dooku.
Next we have Kamala Khan
you
and
go.
Brad Whitaker, or AKA Jack Wade.
Yeah, another wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
He should have been, as we say in that episode, he should have been the main bad guy, and it should have all been about him. But Kamal Khan, at least we get that sitting down with him. Maybe the hunting scene he's got some fun quips at the end of that. This one makes sense.
More
to me.
of the baddie, but yeah, it's that again. That's
He
convoluted.
has zero motivation, but
that's
Brad
Bobby
Whitaker
G.
also
Wiz.
has zero motivation. you know,
Yeah, that's
or at least an interesting motivation.
yeah. Bobby G. Wiz.
Yeah, famous Vice President Kamala Khan. Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next we have Electra King versus Dominic Greene. Both we haven't gotten to on the show yet. We just finished filming Electra King, or The World Is Not Enough. We haven't gotten to Quantum of Solace yet, so we haven't really talked about that character at all. But
this makes sense, just
It makes
because,
sense.
like, I really
Electra, yeah,
I'll
she
be
wins.
very opinionated when we get to Quantum. Not that I'm not usually, but Electra King's whole story is just leagues beyond Dominic. I don't think Dominic's the worst.
Dominic's kind of a
But
fill-in
he's
Blofeld in a way.
He's just generic bad guy
Yeah.
next to Electra King, she might be the greatest villain ever,
Yeah.
considering
who-
the fact that she
I hadn't thought
plays
of
with
this till
Bond's
just now,
balls.
looking at pictures of Dominic Greene on Google Images. He looks like that one rat, like real life.
He's a rat face. Yeah.
No,
He's
who's
got a
that
ratty
guy who
face.
like he was hired to join like a medical company, and then he just
Excuse me.
jacked up the prices on everything.
Right.
Oh yeah,
he looks
yeah,
like
he
that
does
guy.
look like that guy.
Gillespie.
He apparently-
Gillespie,
yeah, that
whatever
same
it was.
guy
yeah.
like
Name
stole.
doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, he bought the
He bought the
Wu-Tang's
Wu-Tang album. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
could be stolen.
F that
Ridiculous.
guy. And
Ridiculous.
F
He does
Dominic
he
Greene.
does look like a Scarelli.
Skrelly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skrelly or Skrelly or whatever. Yeah.
What's the next one?
Unknown
Uh,
cake lover. Martin Shkreli.
Martin
Yeah.
Scourge.
There you go, Martin
Uh,
Shkreli.
moving on, we got another
Screw that
Blofeld.
guy.
This time we have Charles Gray, which we did mention before. Charles Gray had actually been in You Only Live Twice as a different character. So it's the second villain on this list who's played two different characters. As
Again,
far
always
as villains
confusing
goes.
young Charles, where all these people were,
Charles.
not reprising roles, but coming
Charles.
back in as a different character and just
Yeah.
always being very confused.
Oh, young Charles, and you're like, wait a minute, he was a bad guy.
Me,
He
young
yes,
me.
you young
Yeah,
Charles.
always confused. Yeah,
Versus
I understand how that would be confusing. That we were talking about a guy named Charles. Do go ahead.
Versus Goldfinger.
Yeah.
So that one's kind of a.
Let me just say right off the bat, I know I talk a lot of shit about Goldfinger just because of certain.
You just hate Goldfinger.
You just hate Goldfinger.
Goldfinger.
Just because of just certain. I still have a grudge that it beat From Russia with Love as much as I have come around to that idea. But you have to admit, like, especially if you've read the novel, that he's such a good bad guy that James Bond probably respects him more than any other villain. Like he develops a little bit of a man crush on Goldfinger. He's like, this guy is awesome. Like and he's at one point he says, I like a week ago, I thought playing a game of golf against him was like the greatest test ever. And like now I'm about to get sawed in half, like that type of thing where he's or it's actually when he's putting together the Grand Slam and he's like, this guy is this guy is the best villain ever. He has a worldwide gold smuggling scheme. This guy is amazing. And he gets a little bit of an erection.
Yeah.
Of all the movies we've done so far and even the ones we haven't done, he doesn't have that reaction with any other, right? Including Blofeld. Goldfinger's
Really?
the only one that Bond is like, oh,
he's like, this guy's
that's
awesome.
a great plan.
Yeah, and it's not just Grand Slam. It's like they keep having these run-ins, and it just keeps escalating to where he's just like, this guy is awesome. Like, respect, bruh, So
next we have
he'll always have that in his corner. He literally has James Bond's boner in his corner.
Next we have Charlie's favorite Dolph Humanoid loving
Dolph
villain.
Humanoids!
We have Carl
They're
Stromberg
the future.
versus this is our next henchman. We have Odd Job. So him versus Odd Job. And somehow,
that's what Brandon said. Brandon McClellan said, and yet Oddjob beats Stromberg.
Which is interesting. I don't know. I think
seems
just people
obvious
like
just because
Oddjob.
he's a fan favorite. You can, this is Scott would admit to this. I was like, I think you just like Oddjob because of the video game. He's like, well, yeah, of course. I'm like, that's not being objective.
No Oddjob.
No Oddjob.
Yeah.
No Oddjob.
But I think Stromberg is again, what I like about
Fraser.
Stromberg is that he is just insane. He really is just insane, which is and again, in the TND episode, I was like, I wish Carver would have been one or the other, insane or like have a savior complex. But that's what I like about Stromberg. He really is like, and when they realize that, when they're like, oh my God, this guy really is just crazy,
But that became kind of the trope between a lot of the Roger Moore movies as far as the Blofeld copycats, and that's what Stromberg and Hugo Drax kind of became. Is these they're like, but
again,
the
Drax
costumes
isn't crazy though.
Yeah,
like Stromberg is categorically nuts, and Oddjob doesn't swap sides and isn't a fish fucker. Yes, but Oddjob does eat cats. I'll point that out. Is that
in the book?
That's in the book.
Oh my God.
Does he eat Blofelds?
Oh, nice. He gave us $10.
Can we just get a
whoa?
We just got a little. Wanted to say.
I wanted to
hang
chime in and
Let-
just say I'm surprised we have so many people commenting, and it makes me really happy.
Yeah, we usually don't get this many comments.
Well, McCurdy, go ahead and read that.
Yeah, so just wanted to say, finding your channel in the last week has been a real treat, lads. You're a bunch of mad bastards, And yes, I have dyslexia.
Why do
Yeah,
we have
why
McCurdy
do we
reading
pick
this?
McCurdy to read this?
You never fail to either make
gonna
me
read it
laugh or
'cause I don't
pull
trust
my goddamn hair out. No heroin.
No heroin.
No heroin.
Well, that's very generous.
That's very sweet.
We've never gotten a super chat, so
No,
I am
that's our
I am
first super
humbled by
chat.
that. So thank you.
Yeah, that's
Oh my
awesome.
God.
That's
That's
fantastic.
thank you.
But yeah, pull your hair out. That's awesome.
That's
need-
great.
Let's have
you
McCurdy
definitely
try
need
to
to
read this
comment
guy's
more.
name or girl. We don't know.
Oh, go for it.
Probably a
Zolix?
guy.
That's how I would pronounce it.
Azoilix.
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 That's as good
Like
as my guess. would be.
Blastoise.
Blastoise?
We don't
Ha,
say
ha, ha.
Blastoise.
Yeah, where is
anymore.
Ethan? Come on. Anyway.
I'd love to know what that name means though, because it seems pretty epic. And then there's like the not the thumbnail, the image is an A.
Looks pretty legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanna
So
know
is
what
it
that means.
a Zoilix? Like, are those two separate things? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll find out. Maybe he'll comment back. Or
Yeah.
she. We
But
don't know.
yeah, we appreciate that. That I'm honored. I'm kind of
I found a Twitch channel
blown
with
away.
similar colors.
Now I'm gonna butcher your name.
Anyway, much appreciated.
a Zelix.
Zelix.
There you go.
I saw that O in there and it threw me off.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, continue. Yeah, Stromberg beat or Aja beat Stromberg.
Aja beat Stromberg. Then we had
Which again seems
General
obvious. It seems pretty obvious.
Orlov. We have General Orlov
Aja's very nice.
from Die Hard. I mean, not Die Hard. What am I saying? Die Hard.
Beverly
From,
Hills Cop.
Beverly Hills Cop. Thank you. I
Yeah.
don't know why I said Die Hard. I'm thinking of.
We know why you said it.
I don't know why I'm saying it.
Fucking-
Anyway,
go on.
God damn it. By Franz Sanchez. Franz Sanchez. I didn't realize
Yeah,
his name was
Sanchez
Franz.
is just awesome. Move on.
Sanchez is he's Sanchez. And then
We'll
we
get
got
back to him again.
Renard versus Raul Silvia. And both of those characters I can't pronounce.
Mm-hmm.
But also we haven't talked about the second one, so
Yeah, I have
I
some
think
issue with
it's
Silva.
the fan thing.
but-
I think
But
what did I
he
say?
obviously
I said
beats
he's-
Renard. Like again, Renard was also kind of a squandered bad guy, where it's like there's
Renard's-
this bad guy who can't even feel pain, and,
But they
and then they
didn't
don't do
really-
anything with it. you
Yeah, they
know,
don't
except
do
have him. He holds
nothing.
rocks. Like again, we haven't gotten to Twine yet, but
Yeah.
but Nans points out that what if as he was feeding the plutonium rod in, that it was melting his hands, and I'm like, that's dope. Like it would
Yeah.
literally require his superpower in order to pull off his scheme. Elektra, if she was there, she wouldn't be able to feed it in because it would be, or anybody else, it'd be too painful.
Yeah.
Give it to the guy who can't feel pain. How awesome is that? So
Yeah.
but no.
So
we
yeah,
don't
that
get
makes sense. But I also think I think Sylvia is like Pepe Silvia. Pepe Silvia.
just Silva,
Silva.
Raul Silva,
Sylvia.
Pepe
Silva.
Silvia.
Pepe Silvia. I'm not even drank enough. Yeah, but I think he's more of the. I think when we get to it, we'll talk about it more. But I feel like he is definitely like James Bond's version of the Joker in a way. Like we're like, yeah, let's do the Joker, but a James Bond version of
Yeah.
that.
Well, and he's also kind of an Alec Trevelyan.
yeah,
Right? He's
Yeah.
he's an ex-operative who said, "I'm going to go freelance," and I don't really have any. He almost hints at that he's doing good things, right? But he's like, but the
Yeah, they
key
think they're
component
doing
is
good.
I am not. I do my own thing. I don't have M telling me what to do. I decide what I want to do, and then his thing just turns into revenge as opposed to taking those abilities and doing something with it. But anyway, yeah, we'll get to that. I have a lot of trouble with Silva, but
Moving on. So now we have our final division. We had Blofeld, Christoph Waltz, which is Charlie's. Actually, if you didn't know this is Charlie's favorite Blofeld.
you liar. You liar.
His favorite Blofeld.
My favorite is the one you don't see
versus
in From Russia with Love.
versus Largo, who's Charlie's favorite villain. It's not Charlie's favorite villain.
You liar.
But I think I loved the fact that the thing was pick who's the smarter villain because these are two of the dumbest ones.
McCurdy sends me the post, and I just wrote in there myself.
was like-
My little addendum was, and pick the villain you want and tell us why it isn't Largo or whatever. Because just fuck that guy.
Anyway,
Fucking idiot.
Largo beat him out because
Mhm.
the new Blofeld not great. And we'll get to that when we get to that movie.
Again, I
Both
should
those
just
movies.
Christoph Waltz, great.
I should just
Christoph
change
Waltz,
this.
an
The
actor,
super
great.
here should just say a list of villains that were underutilized. Like, this is supposed to be the biggest bad that Bond has ever come across,
Overutilized.
and claims to be responsible for the 3 films that came before, and then he ends up just being a giant idiot. Like, it makes sense that he would be up against Largo. They're the dumbest bad guys in the Bondverse. Whereas in the books, they're supposed to be pretty awesome, but then they're dumb.
So next we got Hugo Drax, who loves to go to outer space, and Max Oren, who's basically a psychopath version of Goldfinger. And Max Oren wins, but I could see that because I think Hugo Drax and Moonraker, it's not the best movie. It's a silly movie, but
I think he has, and I said in that episode, I think he has the best bad guy motivation on this list.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that, Max Zorin is more fun.
I think people also like, I kind of speculate that I think people want more groundedness in their villains, at least today. And so like with having a villain like Hugo Drax or Stromberg or even Blofeld, it's so outlandish and ridiculous that you're like, I don't really want that. I don't know. That's how I see it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Next we have, I think, the biggest upset, but to be fair, I probably shouldn't have placed these two so close together, but I was like, screw it. Let's see. We have, I backed out. We have Red Grant versus Alec Trevelyan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could see why you put them together.
Yeah. But I also am like, I would have pulled for Alec Trevelyan. So
definitely,
I think Red Grant. I mean, we talk about it in both episodes.
They're both great.
Yeah, I bring up the books a lot on these live streams because I don't like to talk about the books in the episodes. On the live streams, it's a little more loosey goosey.
Yeah,
Red Grant is just a pure psycho. He's literally a lunatic in the books. And he doesn't sell out for money.
He falters in the movie, though.
Yeah, and that's where the movie is.
Beat out Trevelyan?
It's like going back to our original episodes. It was Goldfinger, not really by a hair. It was Goldfinger by a mile. By analyzing how Red Grant just arbitrarily sells out, which kind of ruins his character. That he forgoes the mission for money. It's kind of, it would make sense with Goldfinger if Goldfinger's like, get some gold, get those gold sovereigns. But with Red Grant should be like gold. Bond and not care. And in the books, that's how it is. He cares about one thing, and that's blood. The guy is nuts, and he just wants to murder everybody. And that's why he defects to the Russians, because he's like, these Irish people, my kin, like, they're nothing compared to these crazy ass Russians. I'm going to go join their team, So that's kind of, but then Alec Trevelyan, he is that equal but opposite to Bond in the purest sense.
Oh yeah.
For me.
No, but then he drops James Corden
for James Corden.
Yeah. But I think we all agree that like Alec Trevelyan, especially after we talk about Goldeneye in the episode, the stakes make a lot of sense, especially for that time and place when that movie came out. And I feel like, I think with Red Grant, the stuff that you're talking about that's in the books, they couldn't really at that time in the mid 60s, you couldn't really pull it off. And if you did, you had to like kind of hide it. And I think for an action adventure movie of that time, they probably weren't like going to be like, oh yeah, he's into blood. Now, if they did Red Grant, they could probably get away with what is directly in the book. But I don't think they could do it then.
Dude.
Does he have like
do
a
that? And when Red
blood?
Grant is being like remake From Russia with Love and have bring back Daniel Craig to play Red Grant. Please do that, universe. Please deliver that.
That'd be cool.
That'd be amazing.
I'd be into that.
What are you saying, Jens?
He has like an actual thing for seeing blood in the books.
It's what I mean by that is he every time there's a full moon, he's literally a lunatic. Every time there's a full moon, he's like, I need to go commit a murder. So he would do that around villages
it's just
and
like
all
a
that.
ritual. He
But then once he joined the Russians, Rosa Klebb kind of saw this potential in him. And so she would every month they would just let him go nuts in the prisons. They would just let him in to just murder everybody.
Maybe it started with
he's
blood
crazy.
moons, and he was like, "That's not frequent enough. How about every full moon?"
Yeah. All right.
So finally, our final one in the final division. I'm not even drunk enough to do it that way. We have
per bracket. Do a shot for every section you do.
Shit. I don't have anything to do a shot with. Anyway, Gustav Graves,
you can shoot
the
one.
final Bond villain for Pierce Brosnan, which we will get into once we record that episode. We're not there yet. Versus Daniel Craig's final villain, Safin. I think that's how you say his name.
Sure.
And I've only seen, the problem is I think with this bracket, this one is like people haven't seen the movie enough to really form like a really solid opinion. Like I know we have our initial reaction opinion after seeing the movie the one time that we've seen it, but I would like to watch it again at least to kind of be like, oh yeah, this is how I felt, or maybe I see it a second time and I'm like, yeah, like this is good, this is bad. Gustav Graves I feel like he's comedic and charming and all that stuff, and Safin's like an overly serious character with this big backstory but questionable motives.
And he just again, we did a live stream on No Time to Die. We haven't done the deep dive, obviously. That's that's in the future. Yeah. But Safin, though, he came across as this Blofeld thing didn't work out. We need to replace Blofeld with another Blofeld. We need to replace a guy who has a criminal organization with another guy who just also has a criminal organization.
Tie him into Bond's main squeeze at the time, or
and his baby mama once had a run-in with this guy and then didn't see him again for 30 years. It's a mess. The latter Craig films are a mess, and I can't wait to shit all over them.
Yeah, they're gonna be right at the top of the list.
Yeah. I think the Craig
Ozzy Lux.
I think
does
the Craig
time in Graves beating Safin is fair, but also, oof, what an indictment of Safin. And then we got a guy who's actually got his profile.
Travis
pic is
TLC
is Safin. Yeah. I mean that mask is sweet.
Travis TLC
is a villain we've never seen anything like before. Is that true?
Welcome to
say
seeing
the full
us
name.
live.
Say the full name.
I don't know. I can't.
Wow.
It means GoldenEye. GoldenEye Travis TLC.
I can't read kanji. Is it kanji? Anyway,
I think
he says we've never
is a villain we've never seen
a villain
like
Safin before. Is that true?
And what do you mean by that, Travis? Because I don't know how I interpret that. Like a bad guy who is also in. Well, the interesting thing I'll give it is I liked when he was saying, "Hey, Bond, you and I, we're not so different, you and I," and he goes into why. He's like, "You and I both love Mr. White's daughter," and
he wears a mask.
Yeah, he wears a mask. He went through the similarities between him and Bond. We both hate Christoph Waltz. Whatever. There were three of them. But he laid out a case for why they're similar. The trouble is that they still had to deal with Spectre. So that's where I mean, like Safin, I think there was a lot more there that we didn't see. I'd love to see some deleted scenes or whatever, because it's like, oh no, how do we deal with Spectre? And they, my whole fix was let Safin take over Spectre. Don't just have him have his own criminal empire. Have him replace Blofeld, but instead it just that's why it comes across as a mess.
I think I'll save my piece for when we do that episode.
And maybe we never see his face anymore because he's kind of disfigured, and They could have made him like self-conscious about that or something.
Yeah.
That's why he has the mask.
And that opening is
or,
cool.
like-
You know,
Yeah.
that being
There's a lot. The
the
movie has a lot of
prologue,
good,
you know.
good direct. It has a lot of
it's got
really
some
well
Oscar
directed
noms.
scenes.
Yeah.
Or I think it got like best original song, which maybe there weren't any other movies with original music, but I know
Yeah.
your feeling about Billie Eilish and how
I
she's
don't
not
even remember
actually
the
singing.
song.
She's just like
She just like, and I think I
Mumbles.
think she can sing, but I remember I
She's
have
got some
no
talent.
memory of this song. Whereas something like "You Know My Name" is incredible, and you can't get it out of your head. I don't even remember this song, and she has a bad habit of just talking. Like she's not singing, she's just talking. So she's very hit or miss with me, and she also needs coffee to keep her eyes open. I'm so cynical about her look now. It worked
Oh
in the
my
beginning,
God.
but now it's like, can you? I
I
don't
think
care.
that's
Look
just
how much I
kids
don't
are
care.
these days.
This is how much I don't care. You know.
Let's save some of this when we get to that. When we
Well,
finally
yeah,
get to
we'll-
that
we'll-
movie.
we'll
we're a
bracket
long
save
ways
some of
from
this.
there, but
So let's. So now we're back. It's round 2. First division. We've got Blofeld, played by Donald Pleasance, versus Dr. I can't spell words right, Kananga,
And this is
aka
interesting.
Mr. Big.
I was shocked Blofeld made it this far.
I'm
Like,
shocked
you know,
both of
that
these
he
I
that he
think-
beat
far.
Kananga.
Yeah.
inflating Dr. Kananga, just like you can't get past it,
Yeah.
which is fair enough because that was heavily influencing our ranking of it.
Interesting.
Yeah. As Elix says, since Skyfall, I think they just automatically nominate the songs now.
Yeah.
Probably, you know, that's how they work.
Especially during COVID, where like 10 movies came
I
out.
haven't watched the Oscars in 10 years, and there's a reason for that. It's because of stuff like that,
cares?
where it's all political, and I don't mean that as in American politics. I mean that behind the scenes,
every movie
there's
is
a reason
campaigned.
why the hot new young actress, they give her the gold after her first movie because they want to bank her. They want to, now that she has an Oscar, she's a moneymaker. So they're going to give it to her right away, and then they're going to ride that cash machine. It's all calculated. It's all.
I have
I think
all these
I think
dirty
the
thoughts
moment
in
that
my mind, Charlie. They want to bang her. They're gonna ride her.
Well, that too, you know, of course. But
I'm sure there's other.
anyways, that said, I think
comes
the
back
theme
out.
song is one of the better elements of that film. I honestly need to listen to the song again because I'm sure I'll come around to it. But I think that there are so many artists
have
out
to do
there
that.
that they could really make awesome songs. But it's like we always say, the James Bond franchise is all about who's hot right now, who just won a Grammy, who just won Song of the Year, Album of the Year, who just won an Oscar. And it's no coincidence that all of those are in No Time to Die, whether it's Safin himself or the song, or again, bungee jumping is a big trend. Let's fit that into the movie, whatever it may be. It's just I grow cynical about it because it's it's like Christoph Waltz. He won back-to-back Oscars. Let's make him our Bond bad guy and then underutilize him and then replace him when somebody else wins an Oscar and becomes, the favorite
Hey,
one.
at
It's
least he's
That's
the
a
only
good point.
Blofeld who's done 2 movies, though.
sure.
Only Blofeld has done 2 movies, which is interesting. But
Other than Body Double, Blofeld.
yes, that is true. Actually, that is
Yeah.
true. I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
I don't
Anyway,
know if I'd count it. but yeah.
Christados versus Lashif. Lashif just keeps
Everybody
loves
slapping
Lashif.
slapping
I
balls.
like Lashif personally.
I do like
Yeah.
Lashif, but I will say this is the point where I got to. I'm like, I don't Lashif's performance and the fact that he knocks Bond's balls a bunch is cool, but I feel like outside
So
of that
cool.
as a villain, I'm like,
I don't
I don't
get
know.
much from
His
Christados
whole-
minus
his
he's
whole
okay. He's
story-
sponsoring this figure skater or whatever. Like
Yeah,
What
but
else?
he's
He's
but yeah, he
forgettable for
tricks
me.
James Bond into thinking that another guy who's his rival is actually a villain and he's not to be trusted when it's actually the other way around, and then he's actually helping the Russians.
yeah.
So
I don't know.
I,
And
He's
that's
like
all
barely
interesting.
in the movie.
it's
though.
interesting, but the victory goes to Lashif. So
Yeah,
I
Lashif has a
think
cool
that's
backstory
valid.
that I kind of wish they would have at least maybe. I don't know how you could fit that into
you couldn't
Casino
do it
Royale.
with now
but
yeah.
they could have, and so he's just he's a bad guy motivated by greed, which is fine. Greed isn't a terrible motivation. It's just it obviously
It's
lacks
a lot of bad
He's-
guys'
depth you
he's
want.
motivations in these movies.
But he's like a
Yeah.
desperate villain because he's has to win this money back, because if he doesn't, he's gonna get whacked. And
And
he's
That's
like
more
the
interesting
scene.
than
That's
just
interesting,
greed
at least.
for
That's-
greed's sake.
That's the best thing they do in Casino is have that scene with the I'm gonna hack your Blondie's arm off, and like really seeing Lashif sweat to kind of humanize him, so he's not just Elliot Carver where he's a cartoon.
Yeah.
That's all well and good. All the same, though, I am kind of surprised Lashif made it as far as he did. Like, I get it that like Casino's awesome, but I don't know. I don't think Lashif is bad,
think
but again, he just doesn't have. I
Maybe
don't want to
it's
sound like
just-
I'm shitting on him either, because I'm not. I'm just there's just something about him that kind of leaves me.
I think
Everyone's
a little
got
surprised
some
he
Lashif's,
made it
boner
this
I think
far.
Casino,
Lashif's
so
backstory and
Lashif
stuff
gets
is
lumped in there.
interesting. I think Lashif's story is interesting. I just think when you really come down to think about it, versus a lot of these other movies, his whole thing is about a card game, whereas a lot of the other movies, and granted, that was Fleming's first novel, and he was writing it kind of like this much smaller story than what a lot of the James Bond other stories ended up becoming. But that's that basically.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say with that. Anyway, next one, Blofeld Telly Savalas versus Francisco Scaramanga.
Say his name.
Charlie's bedwetting dream.
Wait, what was it again? He's
The man.
Saramanga Dooku.
Scaramangas is a Dooku. This one was like, yeah, I could see that. I think it also, you have an issue with the Russia from Love Goldfinger thing. I'm always like the man with the golden gun getting where it went. I'm like, I still, it's not good. It's a really poor.
You just hate the man with the golden gun.
I do.
You just hate Goodnight.
You're right. I do. It's a good reason to, too.
I don't
Go
know.
watch
These
this movie
Reddit
again.
posts with people rank, and a lot of people put Man with the Golden Gun low, which is interesting.
And
it's
then
not
there's
a good
freaks like
movie.
me who put it a little high, but again, my
And idiots like me
criteria-
that fall
good
for your
movie.
smooth talking.
But that being
especially
said-
after now having read The Man with the Golden Gun, it's such a weird book next to the movie. It's like a Western, like Scaramanga is
That
essentially
sounds cool.
Tuco from
the Good, Bad,
Good,
and
the
the
Bad,
Ugly.
and the Ugly, and it's
That's
just
what
kind
I was
of a
picturing.
weird book. It's really weird.
I'll
We'll
say
talk
this,
about that in
though.
another live
The
stream.
Man with the Golden Gun, though, I think Christopher Lee is one of the few actors that he's done so much work that, I mean, he was a villain back then, and then he just so happens to
always
be
a
in two
villain.
of the biggest movie franchise of our generation.
Hmm.
So it's like he kind of just had legs. He starts off as Dracula. He was in this movie and James Bond. He's in Star Wars and
Wars.
Lord of the Rings, both as villains. So it's kind
He's
of
a
like,
man.
yeah, he's a popular guy. Like,
Yeah.
can't,
But
and-
again,
and he's
that doesn't
very-
weigh in
that
as much as
performance is
you
good.
think him being Saruman weighs in. It doesn't. It for me, it comes down to I can ignore the Bruce Lee scene, and I can enjoy the fact that Scaramanga is Bond's equal but opposite. Again, the guy who's ruled by his wallet, grew up poor, and has taken over this
It could
little
have been
island and
a
lives.
much better
And
film.
he's like Bond. You could be just like
McCurdy
me.
Past
you know?
the flying car.
That flying car.
Again, the flying
Can't do it.
car. I don't understand the hatred.
It's not even
against
just the flying car. Like it's like everything
It's
that has
pulling
to do
a
with
Bond
Goodnight,
move
everything
on
in that
Bond.
season is dumb.
it's Scaramanga. It's
It's
Bond
a
being
really
like,
dumb
I got
movie.
this guy, and then
We're not even. I'm just
Scaramanga's
moving
like,
on. I'm moving
I'm
on.
gonna pull a Bond move,
on,
da-da,
move on.
da-da,
Moving on.
and shoots off, and Bond's like, wow,
We
I
have Kamala
underestimated this guy.
Harris versus Electra King. See what I did there?
I hope
Nice.
Electra
They're
won.
both
Okay,
female.
she did. Thank God.
No. Kamala Khan versus Electra King. I think Electra King's story is just better. Like,
Yeah, totally.
We talk about it in World's Not Enough. It's just a more interesting story. Kamala Khan is like, he's okay.
She has a fine. She she is the best part of Twine.
Electric Ring is
It just goes without being said. And
I love
her,
I love having you gotten to the point where you're now like it's Twine. Like I don't call it the world has done enough. It's
that's
Twine.
a lot of words to say. It's
That's fair.
Twine.
It's fair.
You know, and most of the like
Honor Majesty
ABTAK,
Secret Service. Yeah.
Avtac, you can't say that. It's just like Twine. It just so happens to
Avtac?
make the word Twine. Might as well make use of it. But her story, she
Definitely
has a
better.
story, whereas Kamala Khan just doesn't. Again, nothing's better than right at the end of the movie where your bad guy, who his whole thing is to make money, is like, oh wait, I forgot I have these plates where I could just print as much money as I want. You know, it's just
You're like
Kamala Khan
that's
is
dumb.
like I like hanging out with him, but his overall character, you're like, why are you here, dude? Like, who are you and why are you here?
Next was another mistake on my behalf. I put Oddjob in the same bracket division as Goldfinger. I maybe shouldn't have done this looking
Why?
back. But
Why
you know
not?
what? It is what it is, and people could choose and pick, and I just didn't think it would happen,
Yeah.
but it did. We have
Goldfinger was going to win
the
the whole
Master
thing
versus
anyway.
the Henchman.
Yeah.
We have the Master versus the Henchman.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if people
Oh,
were just like,
yeah.
well, he's the bad guy. But I'm like, yeah, but if they fought, like Oddjob would probably win.
Oh,
Was it
yeah.
close? Was it close at all?
Ooh. You know, I have to go back and look at the I'd have to go look and see how close it was for that one, but I don't think it was. I think Goldfinger
Always blew everybody
he trumped
away,
it
so
for sure.
Yeah.
I bet he can't squish a golf ball.
Goldfinger.
Then we have Sanchez versus Pepe Silvia.
Pepe Silvia? Is that?
And Sanchez won. I mean,
Sanchez won.
Sanchez should win.
I was surprised by that one actually. I was like,
Really?
oh, really? Yeah, I think.
Well,
It's just,
those are both. Again, I get a real boner for equal but opposite to Bond. Those are interesting. You know, in the same way that's why Joker is interesting with Batman. But again, they're equal but opposites in different ways.
That's a good pairing,
and,
actually.
You know,
Sanchez and Silvia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, they both are that, but
I think
Silva
it makes sense
overall.
for Silva to win.
I would have
Sanchez,
put
like
Silva.
I can't poke holes.
Oh, I'm
in
sorry,
Sanchez.
Sanchez.
Like I can't. I have nothing negative to say about Sanchez. He's I mean, and he is
lives
just
in an
Pablo
80s
Escobar,
action
but he's
movie.
awesome. Yeah.
He's awesome.
He's an 80s action movie villain who's based off of maybe based off true events.
He
Some
might
holes
be
can
the
be
most
poked in.
likable of all the villains. Who else is as likable as Sanchez?
It's like
He's a baller.
Saigon.
Yeah.
I was in junior high, asshole.
I feel like when we get to him, we'll be able to poke more holes in Silva than
Maybe.
we could with Sanchez.
Totally.
Maybe.
But just again, in terms of likability, you know, forget about villainy and all that. Sanchez is so likable. You know, Bond's
Yeah,
kind of
he really
becoming
brings
friends with him, and
Bond
had he
in
not,
and is like,
had he not killed Della, you know, Bond might be like, I'll join your team. You know, sell some
cool.
coke. Who cares?
brother,
MI6 kicked me out. You know, let's sell
I
some
can have a
coke.
cool boat, some drugs.
And remember, Sanchez has
Hot chicks.
Delphumanoid statues because
He
it is
does.
written.
Oh my
does.
god. Anyway.
It is written.
Anyway.
Go on.
Largo versus Max Oren, which I actually think this is interesting. Most of the Bond villains, if not all the Bond villains, have some kind of deformity. And Zorn doesn't. But Largo
he is
does.
the deformity. Zorn is
He's
whole
deformed in
being
his
is the
head.
Deformity. That he's
deformed in his head.
a Nazi baby.
But yeah,
He
everybody
talks
else,
weird.
for the most part,
Kinda
I
like
think Red
McCurdy.
Grant doesn't have one. But as I'm looking through the list, I'm like, yeah, most of them don't have this. He's one of the few that doesn't have a deformity, and yet he faces off against Largo, who has an eye patch.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say
Must
about
be
it.
a
It's not
bad
even
guy.
that in depth. It's just like
I'm
that's
sorry to anyone in our audience that has an eye patch. McCurdy didn't mean it. He doesn't know what he's saying.
I meant it. I didn't.
Anybody
mean it.
out there that is monocular, we're
Listen.
sorry. So we're issuing an.
If you
official
have an eye
apology.
patch, it looks pretty cool.
Mm.
Or if you're genetically modified, or
If you were
in the
created by
horse
Nazis
business.
in a lab, we apologize for our insensitivity,
Wow.
but also get fucked.
on McCurdy's behalf.
Mhm.
Get fucked on my behalf. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Apologies on your behalf, or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Who next?
Have you been drinking, Nance?
I told you before this. I had a tall glass of wine with dinner, and then I had to very carefully pick the beers.
I feel like you've talked more on this live stream than you ever talk on any of the
I'm
recorded
sorry.
shows.
I'll stop talking.
Dude, we should make a rule from now on when we record episodes.
I have to
We
take,
need to
like,
have a drinking
several
game for
shots.
Nans.
We
We need
did
to have
need to have-
something
That's
that
probably a
pushes
good
Nans
idea.
to drink too much.
It's a game called Stand By Your Nans.
Charlie,
Stand by
you'll be-
your
Your
Nans.
Charlie, you'll be happy to hear this. I just sold my childhood Pokemon cards, and
Whoa.
I plan on using that money to buy a camera.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Now we're gonna
get you
now
in
we're
that H
upgrading.
Dizzle.
Now we're upgrading here, baby.
Yeah.
I love
Mm.
this. What's
no
up,
more
baby?
Logitech webcam.
Anyway, yeah.
Nice.
Red Grant versus Gustav
Give that
Graves.
man more wine.
It was
I
actually
think-
champagne.
You're drinking champagne right now?
No, with dinner.
Oh, okay.
We
All right,
stayed at
so-
the Hotel Carmichael, and I told
got
Miss
Red
Jessica,
Grant.
I'll stop talking.
Red Grant versus Gustav Graves.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pretty obvious one, I think.
I think so.
I don't see why
Graves
it
is
wouldn't be.
just good fun, though.
Grant
you know?
Gustav Graves
That's
is
the
fun,
argument.
but
Like
yeah,
Graves is
legitimate
great.
bad guy versus
a goofball, a corn, like
yeah,
just a
like an
cartoon,
over-the-top Elliot
string
Carver
cartoon.
esque cartoon.
As
yeah.
bad as a rap that movie gets, I'm excited to watch that.
I can't wait to watch it. I
Yeah.
really can't. I think it's the modern Moonraker
Totally.
for sure.
Where again, the whole Moonraker episode, we're like, this isn't a bad movie. None of the, same old shit.
We like all these movies.
All these movies are awesome, but if you're going to compare them, somebody's got to be on the bottom. And immediately in that episode, we said this is not going to be on the bottom because it's fun.
It's a fun
movie.
It's
It
a
has the most
stupid
views
movie.
every video we put out.
I know, it's
Mhm.
crazy.
Okay.
So now we're into the next round, or round 3. So now it's
Mm.
getting serious. And for some reason, the people decided, yeah, Blofeld Donald Pleasance is a good villain. And I still don't get it. And then
Yeah.
we had Lashif, and I was like, uh-oh. Like, what if Donald Pleasance ends up in the end of our bracket?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna ignore our fans and say it's the other way around. But and be like,
how
no,
this
sorry
works.
guys.
Yeah, it obviously Lashif
It's
won.
Lashif.
Moving
It
on.
was Lashif. Moving on.
The Chiefs
Count Dooku Scaramanga Lee versus Electra King. I don't think this one's a hard one for most people. I think it went straight to the man with the golden gun.
Yeah,
And I think it was just like
For me, that's close. I think Electra King is so great.
I think when you think about
agree.
it, when you think about the two, I think it should be close.
I'm
But
curious
I
what
think
Charlie
people,
thinks because he has a boner for Scaramanga, but I'm sure he's got a boner
I think
for
most
Electra
people have a
too.
boner
Yeah.
for Christopher Lee, and
it's
they're
like the best threesome I can think of is
Oh
me,
my god!
Miss King, and the man with the golden cock. I mean gun.
You'd prefer that chicken
Oh my
golden
God.
eye. You know it.
Yeah, I will. I have some of these movies I
want
have a hard
Scaramanga
time
and-
editing. Like even editing Twine.
Stop saying.
Denise
I don't know what
Richards,
Twine is.
You're not
as,
that
as
cool. Don't- you
awful
can't pull
as
it off.
Christmas Jones can be, and I think you guys think she's more awful than I think she's awful.
I don't think
But
anyone.
my
likes
God,
her.
it's hard to. It's
It's hard to
hard
look
to not
at
get
her.
distracted.
Okay,
while
that's
editing.
fair.
Electra King's so much better looking than her.
Yeah, oh, she's classy. She is. I mean,
You can
Denise
take-
Richards is a porn star, which is good for 5 minutes.
The
but
next bracket should
you're looking
be
for a wife.
all the
boo. You
women
want
of Bond.
King. You want Electric King.
We will
Electra
get
is-
Nans. We'll get
classy.
that at the end of this.
No, we shouldn't do that. That
Next,
would be-
Goldfinger versus Sanchez, and it shouldn't be too hard. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I would go straight to Goldfinger. Just he's classic. He's a Bond villain. I think Sanchez is a villain who showed up in a Bond movie and was like, "We're gonna sell coke and make this an '80s movie."
Well, like Charlie was
Yeah.
saying, Sanchez is so likable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I
And
do think
Goldfinger's like this. Your immediate impression is he's like,
But
gross,
that's what
but
make-
then he surprises you with how
yeah,
like
that's what makes
smart he
Goldfinger
is.
great, though.
Because
So-
that's the thing. Sanchez wears his heart on his sleeve.
Sanchez
Yeah.
is
You
a
know,
family man.
Sanchez is not. Yeah, and
Not
he's
really.
not. He's very much Pablo, where he,
All about the
he'll be
trust.
really nice to you, and then he'll cut your throat. But he's so easy to read, whereas Goldfinger is
You think he's a buffoon, and then it turns out he's not.
He's just a secret genius. Whereas Sanchez is cool, and he's got that equal but opposite stuff with Bond. But Goldfinger is he's the I don't know, he's like the Riddler. He's like Bond's equivalent intellectually.
That's a good point, Char. Like, if Bond was sitting at a poker table or baccarat table with Sanchez, he'd probably beat him. Goldfinger, he would probably lose.
Yeah. So K1 says, I think the actors behind the characters factor into these more than they were supposed to. And I agree. I think, like, specifically with Christopher Lee, I think his performance definitely weighs into a lot. Like, I think people really like Christopher Lee, and they're like, oh yeah, the man with the golden gun. I love that guy. And then he says Robert Shaw versus Sean Bean is the only exception to this. How did Alec lose? I agree. I
agree.
thought Alec, I had Alec.
Because you put him up against Red Grant. But even so, even up against Red Grant, I still think that he should have beat him out.
You'd think Trevelyan would go to the finals.
Yes,
totally.
He should have been.
Yeah.
But it was a big upset.
Would it be Trevelyan versus Lashif or Goldfinger? Or
I think I had.
Let's
get
to that at the very end.
We'll get to that. So then
the way it turned out was almost like the way it was going to turn out, no matter what.
Yeah, no way.
But yeah, go on.
Now we got Max Zorn versus Red Grant, and Red Grant. I think it's just the classiness of that film. I think outweighs A View to a Kill. Like
Max Oren's definitely more of a cartoon. Again, we talked about how it would have been great if we could have had, all they had to do was, instead of having the steeplechase scene, just give that moment for the good guy and the bad guy to be riding horses together, and he's talking about, how he grew up in the camps or whatever. Like, you don't have to be explicit about it, but just kind of dropping hints on why this guy is hell-bent on taking over the world.
Yeah, because didn't we say in that episode, we said that the guy the agent he meets in San Francisco is the one who explains Zorn's backstory versus Zorn explaining it at all. And that
thereby having a connection between the two. Instead, Zorn turned into the equivalent of like a Hugo Drax or an Elliot Carver, where it's this guy that Bond has no connection with and no similarities to. And that's fine for your cartoon bad guy, but it's less interesting than, like understanding a bad guy. And what I mean by Drax, like, again, like Drax's motivation, that's different. Like, I love his motivation, but the whole thing with, Drax basically, or Zorn,
you need more to drink?
Basically just kind of, Bond's whole dialogue is constantly just for the purposes of undermining his ego.
Yeah.
That's all it is. There's no, whereas with Sanchez, it's cool. They kind of develop this somewhat brotherly bond, or they develop this trust. And that's what's interesting about
it's kind of like a Point Break thing in a way.
Yeah, exactly. But with Max Oren, they could have easily done that, but instead it's just whenever Bond's around, they're either pretending that there's somebody else, either of them, or Bond's just undermining his ego.
Yeah.
And that's what Pierce Brosnan's Bond does in Tomorrow Never Dies. He's just, every time he's around Elliot, he's just undermining his ego to the point where ultimately undermining his ego by ripping a giant photograph of him in half. Yeah.
On the band. So yeah, we ended up. So obviously it went to Red Grant, and again, I think it's just the movies. I think again, people think Red Grant, they think of From Russia with Love. It's generally in most Bond spheres is like considered the best movie or one of the best movies of all time outside our list, of course. And it's still, that movie still holds number 3 right now, right? Number 3 in our ranking.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. But anyway,
top list. GoldenEye, so Goldfinger, From Russia with Love.
Yes. So now we get to our final 4. We've got Lashif versus the Man with the Golden Gun, and Goldfinger versus Red Grant. So let's start with Lashif versus Count Dooku.
I'm curious to hear what Char says about
I want to hear what Char has to say about this matchup, because
I would still go with Scaramanga. It's been a while. I've been avoiding watching
Casino, because we're gonna watch it.
any Bond movies that are in the future. I've been avoiding watching. Normally, I watch a lot of Bond, but I've been avoiding watching them because I want them to be a reward for
like a
completing the
reward.
previous episode. And
Makes
then
sense.
as soon as I complete an episode, I'm excited. Ooh, I get to watch Bond again,
Plus
and
watching the old ones gets you to inform on the ones that were on at that point, right?
yeah, and
That's
I'm
kinda
yeah.
how
Instead of watching the ones that are in the future, I'll
Yeah.
rewatch ones in the past to just keep. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
living, breathing, eating, shitting Bond
Got
for
it.
over a year. And so it's tougher to comment on Lashif because of that. But overall, I'll always dig the equal but opposite approach. I'm always going to be a broken record on that. And Scaramanga, again, pulling Bond moves on Bond himself, even just down to like in the book, the man with the golden gun he just has I think a Colt 45 that is gold. It's a 6-shooter and it's just gold, as opposed to the coolest weapon in the Bondverse is the golden gun, and not just because it's a good gun that's gold. It's that he's wearing it on him all the time. And so the guy is living the act. He is constantly ready to murder somebody, via gold bullet at any moment. And and that superficial stuff on top of developing a relationship with Bond and all that. But then you have your Lashif, who, like we pointed out, he was kind of humanized. You understand that why he's like frantically beating Bond's balls so he can, not be killed, and then you immediately see him get viciously killed. Not in a fist fight with Bond, but by his own organization. It's something of a toss up, but for me, I'm always gonna love the man with the golden gun, and not just because he was in Lord of the Rings.
Is Lashif in the books?
Yes,
Yeah.
Lashif is
Yeah.
the first Bond villain. Like, he's in Casino Royale. So
Yeah.
he's it's interesting though, because yes, there were the short stories, but technically The Man with the Golden Gun is Fleming's last novel, and Lashif was his first it was his first novel of the Bond books. So I always thought that was kind of interesting that they go up against each other in the book verse, at least, not in the films themselves. But yeah, I think this one is also one of those where I think the modern, like the fact that this character is he's a modern character as far as most mainstream audiences go. Like, they're like, oh yeah, that Lashif character from that Casino Royale movie, and they not realizing like, oh no, he's a lot older than people know. I think that kind of weighs into this one. But who knows?
Yep.
But I probably would have gone. I don't know. I don't know if I would have gone Man with the Golden Gun or Lashif, to be honest. But because there's a part of me that's like, I don't know if Lashif's as cool as people think he is as far as a villain, but I don't know.
And that's the thing. That's where I can understand the appeal, especially being attached to in any way to Casino Royale.
Yeah.
But I don't. I'm still just kind of surprised he made it to the end.
Yeah.
I'm glad he was defeated. I'm getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes,
obviously he was defeated.
You are.
But
Stop that.
But I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I fully understand the appeal of just a guy who wants
'Cause
to
everyone's
manipulate
like, yeah,
the
he's
stock
got-
market, and he
he's-
bleeds from the eyes, and
he whipped Bond in the
plays
balls.
whipped Bond's balls, and
That's about it.
like I get it and I don't get it at the same time. If you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah.
So whereas
I get it.
Scaramanga, I'm like, I know why I love him.
Yeah, because he was in Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
Let's move on to the
Whom do you serve?
So we got we have your Goldfinger versus Red Grant.
Mhm.
I thought this was interesting because these are the two best Sean Connery films by far, both going up against each other, and also because when we did our Goldfinger episode, that was we were constantly talking back and forth between Red Grant and
Red
Goldfinger, who was the
Grant
better
sold
ones.
out. He'll always have that. Just it's like a shadow cast over him. He
And Red Grant,
sold out.
I
Don't get
always
it.
saw, even though he is considered just a villain, when it comes to a Bond villain, considering it's only the second movie, so they haven't really established the tropes, essentially. It's the second film, and so he is really a henchman. Like, he's not
He's a henchman.
he is a henchman. He's not he's just a glorified henchman in the same way that, like, Jaws is a glorified henchman, or the Man with the Golden Gun is a glorified henchman. I mean,
But I
did I
really
say
don't.
that?
But I really don't. That doesn't bug me. Like, Odd Job going up against his master. Like,
No, I
you
know.
know, I had
I
Odd
know.
Job 1. I'd be
I
like,
know.
I don't care. Like,
I know.
being a henchman, I don't care. I don't care that they're not.
Some
at
people,
the
I'm
top of
saying,
the list,
some people would,
you
because
know,
they would
or
be
the
like,
hierarchy.
why is the Yo-Yo Saw guy from Octopus up against,
Yeah.
so and so, like that kind of thing.
Like,
I
for a
could see
henchman, if
someone-
you fail your master. But if the master is the bad guy we're talking
What-
about, there's more to it.
Yeah, but thematically, Red Grant is the villain that is in the forefront of the story.
Well, and
for that
remember,
particular movie.
going off of that logic, it's also Lashif is actually working for Blofeld. Silva is working for Blofeld. Dominic Greene is working. All these guys are working for Blofeld. or
But
for
even
Mr.
then,
White or whatever,
even then,
you
it's
know?
like it's
that's why it doesn't weigh in for me. It's like
Yeah.
the
A lot of them
character
are, but in
on
terms
their
of the
own,
movie
regardless
universe,
of
like
their place in the
Goldfinger is the
hierarchy.
top of what we see, right? Or are concerned about.
for that particular movie, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying behind the scenes, somebody we're serving a master. You know, like that's why it doesn't weigh in for me. And when we were talking about that, and people were saying, you can't judge this person against this person because they're in a different place in the hierarchy. And I'm like, of course I can. Of course I can do that.
I think, but it does make a difference when you're like, yeah, this is for that particular movie. Red Grant is the main villain that he faces. I mean, Rosa Klebb is supposed to be, but it's really kind of Red Grant. It's who Bond faces off against most of the movie. And
I
if
count
not
him as the
behind
main bad
scenes.
guy. He is the greatest challenge to Bond in that whole film.
Yeah.
You know,
versus Rosa Klebb
versus
with her foot.
little Miss Short Legs.
Yeah.
You know?
Finally we get to Lashif wins the first bout, the other side, and then we have Goldfinger. Now it's down to Goldfinger versus Lashif, the final showdown. This is all the reason you're all waiting for is two great titans of villainy, diabolicness.
I would have been shocked if Goldfinger had lost to Lashif, though. Again, for all the reasons I
To
keep
be
repeating
fair,
myself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. So I was surprised though that I think a lot of people said Goldfinger. Like I was like, oh really? Bond fans really are like they know Goldfinger's awesome. Like I was like, okay, good.
Yeah, sure.
The fans know who's awesome.
Like as much as I love
The
other
movie and the
players
man.
on this board, I have, I'll always do my somewhat faux shitting on Goldfinger, but I have respect for the man. Respecto, yeah. You just hate Goldfinger.
You just hate Goldfinger.
You just hate Dr. No. You just hate all of this because you have an opinion on it.
And it's just, I guess I was surprised that it ended this way because I thought when we posted those two up, I was like, I bet Lashif's going to win. I felt like most people had watched the more modern films because I know a lot of people when I talk about Bond films and I tell them about our podcast and they're like, yeah, we do this Bond podcast and everything. They're like, oh, I've watched maybe the Pierce Brosnan ones and the Craig films, but I don't think I've seen any of the other ones. And so I'm always surprised by that. And
that's pretty much me, yeah.
Yeah, that's Nans as he's watching these movies. I mean, now you're pretty close to being caught up with. You've caught up with.
Yeah, we're getting into the realm
everything.
of I've seen them when I was a kid.
So you've seen them all now, but it's like going to be a refresher for all of these. So. Yeah. That's I'm interested in seeing where if we do this again and like change all of this, where this
I want to do gadgets.
I think I want to do what I'd like to do is for the viewers out there. I'd like to do another questionnaire and say which would you like to see next if we did another bracket.
What do they want us to do?
Do you want to do gadgets? Do you want us to do the women? Do you want us to do the songs? Is there a fourth one you can guys think of? But I think those three right there are all pretty good brackets to have. For
I think we'll just put out a poll asking that question and go from there. Because because it's just fun. It's just fun to BS about all this stuff, and
Yeah.
and it's funny looking at the finished product here. Is that it's almost like looking at like a political election where the kind of niche and specialty ones kind of get pushed away, and by the time you get to the end, it's like not like the obvious contenders, but like the safest contenders.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I might be a man with the golden gun freak, but I understand that it gets he gets pushed to the side for the other character with more mass appeal.
Yeah.
It's very. It's like, of course, it was Goldfinger.
Well, what would be
Yeah.
our like final four then? Scaramanga, Trevelyan,
I would have had let me back
Goldfinger
this
might
out.
have. Yeah.
If I had done this, my final four would have probably still been. Let me look at this real quick. I'd probably say Goldfinger. I'd probably put Trevelyan.
Yeah.
I might have not gone Man with the Gold Gun. I might have gone Blofeld, Telly Savalas, or Kevin McClory, just because I wanted to see that.
I just wanted Kevin to make it further.
I just wanted Kevin McClory.
Yeah.
And then I would probably put the top Lashif maybe, but I don't know.
Like
Maybe
Alec is.
Dr. Kananga would have been fun too.
Alec and Goldfinger would be an interesting final two for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they were facing off against each other.
I feel like Alec almost would be my choice, but
yeah. Well, that's that. Let's just I don't know, how many. I have a tiny wee little bit, so I guess we should just toast to Mr. Goldfinger and sign off.
I'm gonna toast
right.
it as he looks.
And to
Yes.
again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Yes.
That's, you're the first.
And everybody that
you popped our
was watching
cherry.
and
Thank
commented.
you. Finally, not virgins. Azilix
Oh.
and Goldfinger.
We're still virgins.
Bottoms up. Yeah, you're right. We're still virgins. All right. We'll put out a poll
And Halo
maybe
Infinite.
tomorrow, and just say,
Gadgets,
what should we
women,
do next?
or songs?
Personally, I would love to just jump right into gadgets. But
I
we
would
should
say
do all
gadgets
three
for women.
anyway. We should just do them all because
Yeah.
we might be doing Bond for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, probably at this
Yeah.
pace.
At this pace.
If people,
Yeah.
if they're gonna,
I
so what
remember-
happened with TND? They were okay with it, and then
it
they
was
were like, nah.
removed. Okay, for anybody who cares or wonders why this happened,
They care.
K1
said
wants to do
songs.
songs. Yeah, we definitely.
K1's wrong.
So what happens is when you upload a video, it immediately checks everything. It's like, okay, you have copyright issues for this, and this. When it doesn't immediately hit the movie, when it doesn't immediately say, hey, you use Tomorrow Never Dies, you need to, get permission or whatever, or dispute it and all that. When it doesn't do that automatically, inevitably there's a manual copyright, issue that comes through. And then, so it's, and you never know when it's going to be. So it's okay. Release the episode and just know that at some point it's going to be taken down. And then after 2 days, they hit it. And then it'll probably be back tomorrow. And if not, it'll be the next day. But it sucks that it just kills the momentum,
So as of right now, it's not viewable.
It's blocked completely. So,
That sucks.
but
Yay.
some record company released us of a copyright hit. And so they're awesome. I think they're like Inner Street or something. They're awesome. Kudos to them. And I think it was for the use of because we cut that Austin Powers stuff in there, the incense and peppermint. I think it was for incense and peppermint. So anyway, let's not drag on any longer. Nobody cares about copyright. When TND comes back, send it as usual. Send it to Grandma, or anybody else who believes the fake news. The news is fake. All the news is fake. 9/11 was an inside job. Oh God, no, we're gonna get banned.
Please don't.
Jeff Field just melts.
Please don't.
Just
stop. Just stop. Wait. Hold on.
Yeah, get the hat.
He just always has this.
I gotta
apparently.
get my hat. Anytime Charlie says anything crazy now, it's like, all right, calm down. So this is my subtle cue. It's like I need my
fixture.
I need my safe
Not
space
so
right now.
subtle cue.
Yeah. Okay, Goldfinger won, of course.
All right.
Stupid ass Goldfinger won. as he deserved. All right, we'll see you guys on the next bracket breakdown. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.